In this video I'm showing you how to apply color to objects in InDesign, and if you've worked in Illustrator before, it's quite similar, but it's still useful to watch this video if you already know how to do it. So I'm just going to start basic with a simple square. I'm just going to draw a square here. And you can see that the square has a blue stroke around it, and every object that you create or select in InDesign, in the top you will see the control bar that provides you all the information on that particular object that you have selected. So at the moment you can see here in this area you have the color information for the stroke. So this is the stroke information. So at the moment it's 100% cyan blue, and you can just change that to, for example, a magenta. There you go. And what you can also do in this particular control panel is, for example, change the look of your stroke. So you got different options to choose from, and you can change the size of your stroke, so you can make it thicker. And above that you can see the actual fill settings, and the fill setting is at the moment has a red line through it. That means that there's no fill in this particular box. So again, I can just click on the arrow and then choose, for example, magenta, and fill that up with the blue. And what you can also change is, for example, change the opacity. So in that, what we mean by opacity is that you apply, make a color transparent. So at the moment it's 100% solid blue, but I can just, if you go here, you can change it to, for example, to I don't know, 50%, and then it's transparent. So if I now place another object which I make blue or black, and I make stroke black as well. Oh. And I just select that object again and send it to the back. Object, arrange, send to back. And you can see that I've put the black box behind the blue box, and because I changed the opacity to let's see, 50%, you can still see that box kind of shine through that. I'm just gonna show you also another way to work with color in InDesign is using your swatches palette, which is here, panel here on the right. So you just click on that, and what you can change there as well. So if I've set this back to 100% solid, you can also change the tint, and that's kind of the you know, a particular value of that color. Instead of making it transparent, you just kind of make the color lighter. So if I set this to 50%, you can see it's not transparent, but it actually just makes the color of the stroke lighter. And you can see here that you can swap. So at the moment I've got the stroke on top, which means that I'm now applying this particular tint to my stroke. If I want to apply a tint to my fill, I have to swap these two colors around. So I just click on this tiny little swap fill and stroke arrow. So I click on that, and now I've got my, you can see the colors swap around. And if I want to actually work with my fill, I click on the fill, and then my fill is at the front, and I just change it again. And you can see that now my fill gets a 50% tint. So it's important to know that when you work with objects, that you when you want to apply color to the fill, that the fill is actually at the foreground. And if you want to apply a color to the stroke, that the stroke is at the foreground. So if I now want to have the stroke at the foreground, I just click on it, and now it's at the foreground, so I can kind of change the color of my stroke. And if I want to change the color of my fill, I click on fill, and then change the color of my fill. And if you want to swap the actual colors around, so if you want the fill yellow and the stroke blue, then you just click on the little arrow above it. And that's how you do it. And another quite maybe useful feature as well is in the strokes panel. So we've got, I'm just going to window, stroke. You can also, for example, make an arrow. So if I now create a simple line here, and I go into my strokes panel, I can of course change the weight of my line a little bit. And what I can then do is where it says start, I can say, okay, the start of my arrow needs to be an open circle, and the end should be an actual arrow. And then again, you got different types of arrows you can choose of. So I'm choosing the triangle white, and there you go. Or you could change this to like a simple bar, or you can change it to none. So that's how you can very simply create arrows with your stroke panel. So that's kind of nothing to do with colors, but I thought I'd just mention it while we're looking at the stroke panel. Another thing you can do in InDesign is you can apply, if I just type some text, so let's type the word design. I'm just going to make that a little bit bolder in a different font. And make it a little bit larger. So what you can do as well, you can of course change the color of your type in InDesign. So you just select your text and then you give it a blue, for example. But the good thing about InDesign as well is that you can apply a stroke to your text. So if I now click on my stroke, which at the moment it says my stroke has no color. So I click on the stroke and then I click on, let's do this one. And I'll just deselect with my direct selection tool. And you can see now that there's a stroke around my actual text. And I can also, for example, take the fill out. So I just click on fill and say none. And then I just have a stroke of my text. So that's quite useful to, and you can still just change the text to another word. Because previously you had to kind of make outlines of your text, which is not necessary anymore. You can just use actual text and change it into an outline for you know, particular effects or something. So that was just briefly how you apply colors to objects.